Biden proves that he does not care about online censorship. Some women are planning on indefinitely wearing the masks, and a shopping cart theory has owned the libs. I'm William Hall, and this is The William Hall Show. Alright, welcome back to the show. So let's go ahead and jump right into what's going on here. So last year, Trump was making several different efforts to try and get rid of the online censorship that was plaguing conservatives for years. And that was through this executive order that he was trying to push through. And Biden now has proven that he could care less. It doesn't matter to him whether or not there's online censorship one way or another, as long as it doesn't hurt their agenda. They're fine with it. So on Friday, Biden had revoked President Trump's executive order from May 2020 targeting online censorship. Trump was wanting an interactive computer service company, and this is all of the social media sites. So we're talking Twitter, Facebook, Google, all of the others. He was trying to basically make sure that they were held responsible for the content that was published on their platforms. So in Trump's executive order, and this was from May 28, 2020, he wrote that the policy of the United States should be that an internet provider be exposed to liability like any traditional editor and publisher that is not an online provider. Now, a lot of people agree, some people disagree with Trump's approach to this. On the Republican side, by the way, I'm one that kind of disagreed a little bit about the method, about the way that Trump was trying to push this through, at least in the sense of saying, okay, all of these social media networks must be held liable for the content that's on their site. And the reason why that's not a good thing, really, if you're just looking at it in that very basic term, is because that hurts every social media site. So that includes the conservative ones. We're talking about Parler, Gab, any site that supports conservatives would now be responsible for everything on their website. Okay, so that's why we wanted more something along the lines of Section 230 being revised, not so much Section 230 just completely being completely changed in a way that would just simply make it so that every social media platform was automatically considered a publisher. Because ultimately, we want the Section 230 to outline exactly what these platforms are. And we've been saying this for the longest period of time. They have to pick a specific lane that they're going to go in. They can either be a publisher or they can be on the opposite end of that. And the issue is, or in that sense, the platform. But the problem is that with a platform is that they have to say, okay, we're hands off. We're not going to be responsible for the things that people are putting on our site because we're just offering them a platform for them to do it. Whereas a publisher is more so this, like an article or a website that does a bunch of articles. Any of your news organizations would be considered as a publisher. If they write something slanderous that is a lie against somebody, they can sue that company and they're held responsible for it. The issue is that you don't want that necessarily crammed down on every social media network because that hurts conservative sites. It hurts everybody in the grand scheme of things. So that's why, at least in the sense of Section 230, more people were just trying to have some type of revision of it, not necessarily to immediately assume that all of them and make all of them publishers. But regardless of whether you agree with that methodology or not, the real issue here is that Biden doesn't care either way. He really doesn't. He doesn't care about the social media online censorship whatsoever, and we knew this was going to happen. Really what this tells me is that Republicans should have moved on this when we had the opportunity years ago. When we had control of the Senate as well as the presidency. I mean, there was so many opportunities to actually do something about this, but now it's a little too late. Too little too late at this point. So in Trump's executive order, what he was basically saying is that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube wield immense, if not unprecedented power to shape the interpretation of public events, to censor, delete, or disappear information, and to control what people see and do not see. And of course, Trump is absolutely correct. That is ultimately the problem with this, is that Twitter isn't really an option for some people. So for them to be able to just ban people off of the platform as they see fit doesn't really make sense. And it's not fair to the overall discussion that's taking place. That if it's something that's required, if people kind of have to be there to make a career or to do whatever it is, that it's Twitter's job to simply provide that platform there. So Biden doesn't care about the censorship, which we already know. And this is just something else that kind of adds to that to show that he's not even going to look at these issues. He's not going to try and have the discussion about Section 230 or anything about the social media networks. To him, it doesn't matter because Twitter, ultimately, they're the ones that took Trump off the platform first. They, in the wave of bannings from every website pretty much out there that exists today, Twitter was kind of the first in line. So Biden doesn't have an issue with them deleting his account or getting rid of them whatsoever. So we're not going to see him actually dive into any of the issues with this at all. Several retailers are changing their mask requirements now. So this has been a long time coming, to be honest, in many of these stores. But now we have Starbucks, Walmart, and several others that are now announcing that they're going to be lifting the mask mandates or at least getting rid of most of the rules that are surrounding them. So the most interesting statement that actually came out of this is from Costco. And they said, "We will not require proof of vaccination, but we ask for members' responsible and respectable cooperation with our revised policy. Costco continues to recommend that all members and guests, especially those who are at a higher risk, wear a mask or shield." Which I find is pretty interesting that they made these statements here, because really what they're saying here is be responsible. What did it mean? Respectful? Oh, okay. You mean like the rules that we probably should have had from the very beginning of this? Because the issue is that ultimately that's what this whole thing should have been. Is that you should be able to trust people to their own devices. If they choose to wear the mask, let them wear the mask. If they're concerned about it, have them wear a mask. There's no reason to, as a store, say we're going to force this to happen. Because there was actually another report that came out recently as well saying that most people didn't even get COVID-19 from stores, from gyms, from restaurants. By far, most of it was family members, people that they were living with that brought it into them, to the home or whatever it would have been. But it wasn't from a business 90% of the time. Yet you had the businesses overreacting as if for some reason they were going to be some massive super spreader event. I mean, we can't even point to the things like the Super Bowl and many other events that have taken place as well that have really specifically spiked it like crazy. But the point still remains the same, is that people should have been able to have been responsible beforehand. People should have said, hey, look, if you're worried about your health, if, like it says in here, if you're a higher risk, wear it. Okay, fine. Have them do that. Let them choose what they're going to do. Now, none of these places said that they're going to be checking to see if you're vaccinated or not or anything like that to have any proof of it, but still, and hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But remember, there's still right now states that are completely closed. Looking at you, California, that is still completely closed at this point. So at least we're making some progress, but honestly, these rules should have been there from the very beginning. Give people the option to do it. If they choose to do it, great. If they don't, leave them alone. That's not what this is about. It never was what it was about. So, speaking of masks, you have some women now that are actually saying that they want to wear the masks indefinitely. They don't want to stop. Now, why would this actually be taking place? So there's actually several reasons that are outlined. This is a woman that was specifically interviewed by The Guardian, which should tell you everything you need to know right there, because it's already kind of off the rails with The Guardian as it is. So it starts off where they are giving responses to why they want to wear the mask forever. And so their response for the first part of this is, I don't want to feel the pressure of smiling at people to make sure everyone knows I'm friendly and likable. It's almost like taking away the male gaze. There's freedom in taking that power back. Taking the power back? Taking what power back? And maybe you should be a friendly person. I mean, is that really where we're at right now, where it's like, I don't want to have to actually work to be a nice person? Lord forbid people actually see me as being a decent human being to them, or whatever it is. You know, maybe that's just kind of the introvert kind of in these people. I'm not sure, but it really doesn't seem like that, because they're talking about the male gaze and all this weird stuff. All of this feminist stuff that they're putting on top of this for some reason. So it goes on to say, maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker, or maybe it's because I always feel like I have to present my best self to the world. But it has been such a relief to feel anonymous. It's like having a force field around me that says, don't see me. So basically blend in, conform, and just pass by. Nobody notices that you're there. That's basically what they're saying here. It's almost very similar to people that are online in the sense that it's anonymous that way. So they go on to say it's a common consensus among my coworkers that we prefer not having customers see our faces. Oftentimes, when a customer is being rude or saying off-color political things, it's not allowed to grimace or make a face because that would set them off. With a mask, I don't have to smile at them or worry about keeping a neutral face. I have had customers get very upset when I don't smile at them. I deal with anti-maskers constantly at work. They have threatened to hurt me, tried to get me fired, thrown things at me, and yelled F you in my face, which I doubt any of that's true because we don't have any verifiable evidence that that is true, of course, because they're just saying things. They're just saying stuff. You can say it all day. That doesn't make it inherently true. I have a feeling that if somebody legitimately was throwing something at you, which would be considered as assault if they hit you with something, that, that person will probably get arrested. Like, there's things for this, okay? Like, there's no way that this stuff's just randomly happening all of a sudden. But anyways, they go on to say, if wearing a mask in a park separates me from them, I'm cool with that. Kind of reminds me of this tweet that I saw from this guy named David Hogg, which I have posted up here, where he says, I feel the need to continue wearing my mask outside, even though I'm fully vaccinated, because the inconvenience of having to wear a mask is more than worth it to have people think that I'm not a conservative. Okay, alright, dude. I mean, this proves that this was never about the science, which I made the response there also that you can see. This was never about the science of these people. It was always about, how can I differentiate myself from them? I mean, instead of just basically sticking a Biden-Harris sticker to my forehead, I'm going to put the mask on, and that basically means the same thing. And I want people to know it because it's a symbol. I mean, we've been saying this for months, that it's a political symbol, a political device that is being used by these people to make you think a certain way about something. And that's what they're trying to do here as well, is to separate themselves from these evil conservatives that just want people to have a choice of whether they should wear one or not. And then it goes on and it says, I appreciate that I felt a bit more anonymous in a mask and more gender ambiguous. There it goes. Here we go. After lockdown ended, it was confronting to go out and be exposed to all the offhand racism, sexism, and misgendering from strangers again. Sometimes when I'm just going out to grab takeaway, I've enjoyed keeping the mask on, even though it's not really necessary here now. So, how many isms do these people have to deal with on a daily basis? I doubt they're dealing with anything like that. It could have been somebody just going to a store or something and them saying have a nice day and not confirming their gender in front of them, and all of a sudden they think it's misgendering or something. That's the way these people are looking to find something to be oppressed about. Make no mistake, they love this. If they couldn't put that in there, they would feel like something was wrong with them. They have to be able to say something was racist. They have to be able to say something was sexist because that's the way they live their lives. But once again, you have them talking about these masks over their face and constantly trying to either hide from people, to separate themselves from people, to differentiate themselves from people with it. That's the way that they are viewing all of this. They go on to say, I just stare at that little box with my face in it and pick apart my appearance. My double chin seems 6 times larger. My eye bags are too deep of a purple. Even when there's a heat wave, my apartment is close to 90 degrees. I'll wear a turtleneck that I can pull up. I pack on thick makeup that makes my skin peel. I 10,000% plan on wearing it in the foreseeable future. After a full day of worrying and not being able to focus on my actual job, it's just nice to blend in. Simply put, I'm sick of being perceived. Well, it doesn't really sound like people are perceiving you in any specific way at all. It really sounds to me like you are perceiving yourself in a negative light and you're using the mask to cover up what is obviously there. That's what it seems like to me that you're talking about here. All of this stuff about, it's this is sexist and racist, but even when I look at my face, I just feel so ugly. Okay, I mean that's a you problem, not other people problem. I mean, if you want to make the mask or wear the mask because it makes you feel better by covering up half your face, that's on you. I mean, you have the freedom to do that. But don't make it about all of these other people in the process, because I don't think that works both ways. This is clearly about you and your own lack of self-confidence. But I also think that this speaks to the larger idea of society. Because it's this weird need to kind of blend in, this weird need to remain anonymous in a way, if you want to call it that. As I briefly mentioned, it's kind of like being online, where you're away from people constantly, but you're connected with them. They don't sometimes, I mean, a lot of people online are completely anonymous in the sense that they may have a profile, but you don't know what that person looks like. You don't know their real name. It's just somebody that's there. That's basically what the Democrats are trying to do here. Because everybody behind a mask, everyone that's anonymous behind a Twitter profile can say whatever it is that they want to say to you. They can berate you online and say the worst and most terrible things. I mean, there's things people have said to me that I know for a fact that they would never say, not only not say to my face, but wouldn't say to anybody's face. Because they're actually in real life very introverted, online only kind of people that have zero people skills whatsoever. The issue is that you need people skills at some point to be decently good at doing anything in life and just getting along with the regular outside world. And it seems like these masks, at least for this person or these people here, are just being used as a way for them to hide away, to pretend as if the world outside of their bubble does not exist, even though it clearly does. And it goes on, and they said as well that, I think this is actually a different person from another site that was talking about this, where they said, of course, a mere face covering isn't going to deter the most dedicated catcallers and unwanted attention givers among us. So this person's taking this whole route and going the feminist way with it. They're trying to use it and say that these masks are getting rid of these people that are catcalling them and saying, hey, and really to them, catcalling is probably just a guy opening the door for them or saying, how was your morning today or something simple, some type of small talk or something is considered as probably catcalling to them. But they're using this and saying, well, the mask reduces that takes that away. But keep in mind, typically, people aren't really saying things to you or guys aren't responding to you in a weird way or anything like that if you're just wearing or not wearing a mask or something like that. Really, what they're doing it for is probably a lot of has to do with how you're dressed, how you're presenting yourself. You know, it's really funny how they'll say, oh, I'll wear a mask. I'm willing to wear a mask indefinitely, mind you. I'm willing to wear a mask all the time to keep away from, to keep a guy from complimenting me on my appearance. But I won't dress moderately. I won't put on clothes that cover every part of my body. I'll continue to dress like that, but I'll put on the mask to reduce it. How does this work? I mean, these are things that we've been saying for years. Hey guys, these women, if you want to not have these guys saying these things to you on the street or something like that, maybe the best thing you should probably do is maybe not dress in a way that makes you look like somebody that would maybe respond well to something that way. Don't give them that opportunity in everything. It doesn't have to be a mask. Maybe just dress more moderately. How are you willing to wear a mask, but you're not willing to change the way that you dress? That really is the kind of dichotomy that I'm trying to figure out here. This it's just another way for feminism to be used to demonize men in something as crazy as just a mask. So just a quick reminder that I do have a Patreon page where you can donate directly to the show. And if you are listening to this as well on Apple Podcasts, please remember to leave a review. And also, if you are on Parler, you probably have noticed that the site has been extremely erratic and extremely annoying to use. Keep in mind, I am on Gab at William5849, as well as on Telegram at William5849 as well, where you can follow my posts as well as news stories and videos and all of that good stuff as well. So the student magazine actually awarded a first place prize for a painting that showed the Minneapolis Police Department on fire. Okay, and that's not an exaggeration. That's exactly what happened. So the kid that actually did this drawing or this painting said in a statement, if it offends enough people, it's probably going in the right direction. If the ideas are fundamentally commendable and the cause is fundamentally virtuous, the result is even more likely to be sound. It must be offensive, yes, especially to the people who desperately wish to convince others that its content is not directed at them. Okay, now I'm showing you this painting here so you can see what this is. And you can see that it's not cool. First of all, it's not that great of a painting, but it's also not a good idea to be promoting this kind of stuff. This is a police department on fire. And the title of it is basically this idea of talking about social justice. This essentially is just a BLM painting, is what it is. Justifying the riots. This was given an award, a student award for this. And going into what this guy is talking about here, he's saying that if the ideas are fundamentally commendable and if the cause is fundamentally virtuous, listen, there's nothing commendable or virtuous about burning police departments to the ground or burning businesses or causing $80 million worth of damage like BLM did last year, or killing Officer David Dorn in the process of these riots. That's not commendable. That's not virtuous. What it is a situation where you have people that are breaking the law to justify something that isn't even provable. That police officers are inherently racist. That's not provably true at all. And not one of the incidents, besides a dumb assumption, can be actually pointed to and said that that is clearly racism. None of them. All you have is assumptions. That Minneapolis Police Department, by the way, guess who they also employ? Black police officers as well. Mexican police officers, Hispanics, Asian police officers. I mean, just think about the situation with Derek Chauvin. I mean, several of the other officers were Asian, Black, Hispanic. I mean, other minorities are getting hurt by you burning things to the ground. Your own community is getting hurt by you burning things to the ground. It's not about this being offensive. Trust me, I'm not offended by it. It's just that the entire thing is built on a blatant lie. A lie that you have no proof of. And they're giving this an award. That's what's ridiculous to me. That's what's crazy. Police aren't racist. You don't have proof of it. And even if they were, you have no justification to sit there and say, well, us burning down a police department is perfectly fine and justifiable. That's okay with us to do that. Okay, sure. Just keep giving these awards out to these students, to people like this, making them feel justified in what they're doing. But at some point, the rubber's going to meet the road, and these people are going to realize, like, hey, we need these police officers in our community. Look at the facts. I'm looking at the numbers. I don't know what they're looking at. So there's this patriot that went on TikTok and did this pretty interesting video. And it's showcasing this shopping cart theory, which is kind of new to me, but it's used to own the liberals. Check this out.
Tell me you're a Republican without telling me you're a Republican.
Okay, so those that are listening to this on audio, you have this woman that is, you heard the audio at least in there, where it's saying, show that you're a Republican without telling them that you're a Republican, basically. So how do you do that? And she's pushing this shopping cart through the parking lot and simply pushes it into one of the shopping cart holding areas that's in the parking lot, that's designated specifically for the shopping carts. Now, a lot of people might be confused about that. Why would that mean that you're automatically a Republican? But really, it comes down to something quite simple. It's this simple idea that conservatives typically do things that they know that are right to do. The things that are the right thing to do. When you're raised by your parents, you're taught about good things, bad things. You're basically, if you're raised right, you know what I'm talking about. There's just things that you do that are just the right thing to do, because what you oftentimes do is you consider other people in your life. You consider other things that are going on around you. And you yourself as a conservative know oftentimes when you encounter certain things in life, when things are inconvenient, because when I put a shopping cart, which of course I do, when I put a shopping cart in one of the holding areas at a Publix or something, the reason why I do it is because I know how annoying it is to pull up into a parking space and there's a cart in the way, or to try and get a shopping cart and put it somewhere else. You're doing what you know is right regardless of what's happening, even whether you put it in the holster or you hand it directly back to one of the people that it's actually handling the carts and bringing them in from the parking lot. But it's always the worst when people just kind of just basically throw them and just let them go. But the point is really talking about, is a person capable of self-governing, of making just good decisions and right decisions just because it's the right thing to do. And the thing about a shopping cart is that returning a shopping cart is easy. It's a fairly convenient task. One we would all recognize. I think all people with common sense would realize it's just a correct, nice thing to do. It's the appropriate thing to do. I don't see why anybody would deny that. The actual just part of returning the shopping cart is objectively a good thing to do, regardless of how you view things in your world. There are no situations other than dire emergencies in which a person is unable to really return the shopping cart. So the question would be, why would you not return the shopping cart? At the same time, though, it's not illegal for you to leave the shopping cart in the middle of the parking lot or in a parking space so no one can get access to the parking space or have to move the cart out of the way before they park. There's nothing illegal about that, but you know that it will be annoying to them. You know that would be annoying to them. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself in a situation where will a person do the right thing without being forced to do the right thing by law? Okay? Let me repeat that. The shopping cart represents, will a person do the right thing when they're not being forced to do the right thing? That's the key. That's the goal here that we have to look at. Republicans, for example, oftentimes give to charity because it's the right thing to do. On the flip side of that, Democrats are typically the ones that are saying, hey, let's start a government program to help those people out. They're these less fortunate people. Let's start a government program to do that instead. They're also the ones that are usually trying to get the government to raise taxes in order to help the poor or to help fund some other type of welfare program or something like that. But notice how they never seem to be the ones that are volunteering their own money. They're never the ones that are directly involved in helping any of those people. They would rather see the government do that job instead. And here's where you have the biggest difference of all. Because as a Christian, what does God see as you doing a good deed? Not that anybody's saved by good works or anything like that, but still, just as a Christian of doing the right thing. Oftentimes, we are called to do the right thing. Even when we're not forced to do it, you do the right thing because you're considerate of others around you. And this is a perfect scenario where that plays into this. If you want to help somebody out that you see in the church that is in need or in your community that is in need, what do? Do you go directly to them to help and ask if there's anything you can do to help them out? Or do you go to your, I don't know, maybe the county and say, hey, there's this family here that could really use some help. Maybe we should start some government program and start charging all these people in the community money to do this, to help that. Wait a minute. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just directly help that person? Why are you trying to start some massive program to do something like that instead of just directly helping that person? Because that's the biggest difference that we see here, is that Christians, conservatives, are going to do the right thing directly. They're going to do the right thing themselves. Because think about it in the shopping cart scenario. If the shopping cart is left out in the middle of the parking lot and somebody else doesn't get it themselves when they're trying to get into the store, there's another person that is employed by the store that is going to get that shopping cart. Democrats would be the ones that say, well, that's their job. That's what we're hiring them for, right? I mean, we're creating jobs by leaving these shopping carts out in the middle of the parking lot without even having the slightest consideration to put them in an area. Conservatives are saying, hey, we're trying to make their job easier. We're just trying to be nice and make their jobs easier. They put these stations here to make it convenient for us. The least we could do is clearly just put them in the little stations that they go in. Simple as that. But that's not the way the Democrats look at these things. So when they look at these government programs, they're saying, well, that's what the government's for, is to pay all this money, even though that's not what the government's for at all, to pay all this money, to give to these poor people and things like that. I'm not going to sacrifice my money. I'm not going to be the one to directly help them. I'm not going to actually, aid to them specifically. But I'll be the one that votes for all of the higher taxes so that they can get taken care of by the government. That's what they do. Christians, we're used to giving our money to the church, which is really going to God, giving to missions, giving to many different things, and specifically helping people out that we see as well. And it's not always about money either. Sometimes it's just about doing the right thing. Like putting a shopping cart up. This is not a direct cost of your time or anything like that, or your money. But it's just the right thing to do. And that really is why this video is such a kind of owning the liberals kind of moment, because it really is showcasing the big dichotomy of saying something as simple as just doing the right thing. It could be any right thing. As simple as putting a shopping cart up, as simple as just helping out somebody, your neighbor, or what have you. That simple act oftentimes is more of a conservative difference between conservatives and liberals. That is the big separation between these two worldviews and ideologies that you have to pay attention to when you're looking at how to shape this world and how to view the things that are going on in this world. And there really is a big, big, big difference. And it's something that is just as simple as a shopping cart. So with that being said, I thank you for watching or listening to this episode, and I will see you on the next one.